My newest app, Amy, finally has 100 users. In this video, we're gonna cover how I got those first users, and then everything I did and built in just 1 week to prepare for the next 500 users. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Chris and I build productivity apps, and I document everything I'm learning and share it with you guys here on this channel. Quick context, Amy is a calorie tracking app in the style of Apple Notes. You just type what you ate and then the calories will magically show up on the right. Probably the simplest calorie tracking app out there. If you've been following along, you know that I have a waitlist set up and I've been actively promoting it while I've been building this app. And that's my recommendation, is to start marketing and promoting your app even before it exists. Because now there are 1,600 people on the waitlist. This waitlist is how I got the first 10 users, and it's how I plan on getting the next 500 next week. Okay, so here's what I learned now that we have 100 users. The first 10 users who use your app, you're mostly just checking, does the app actually work? Is there anything glaring that you need to fix? Does the core functionality make sense? But with 100 users, you start to understand the most important metric, in my opinion, which is retention. Simply put, retention is how many people stick with and continue to use your app. Because anyone can sign up, but getting them to stick around is a whole other thing. And specifically, the metric I'm looking at is how many people are still using the app 1 week later. You can check out my last video if you want to see how I'm tracking retention with Posthog and all the dashboard and metrics that I set up. But after onboarding these 100 users, right now we are sitting at about 3% week 1 retention. That means for every 100 people that sign up, 3 people are using it 1 week later, which is not great. But I did a little bit of research and it turns out in the calorie tracking space, week 1 retention sits around 3 to 10% on average, which is a bit lower than expected. So I'll probably go double check the numbers. But if this is true, we are sitting at the low end at 3%. So the mission became super clear. Can we bump this week 1 retention up before we release on the App Store? Because you really only get one first impression with the user. They're gonna download your app, and if they don't like it or they don't stick with it, there's a very low chance that they're gonna try it again. So I gave myself 1 week to improve the app, work on retention before I onboard the next 500 users to use the app. So let's dive into what I built to bump that number up. First thing that I built, which I believe will have probably the biggest impact on retention this early on, is widgets. Not all apps can take advantage of widgets because sometimes it just doesn't make sense. But if your app can have a widget, it is actually a cheat code for retention. And here's why. It's because when users are using your app, there are 1,000 other apps that are constantly trying to get their attention. If you have a widget, you take up a lot of real estate on the user's phone, but more importantly, it's way easier to get their attention compared to something like just an app icon on their home screen. And to take it a step further, you can even make a lock screen widget. And this is probably one of the most prized real estate on a user's phone because only 4 apps are allowed to be on that home screen at a time. So if you are selected as one of those apps, that means they're going to see your widget probably 150 times a day. So in my case, because I'm building a calorie tracking app, let's say that I have a lock screen widget. When the user opens their phone and they see this widget, there's a higher chance that they'll be reminded, oh, I should probably go log my food for today. I've done this with my other apps like Luna, which has a lock screen and a home screen widget, and my daily planning app Ellie, which also has a lock screen and home screen widget. And when I implemented these, there was a significant bump in week 1 retention. So I spent some time building this widget and I cheated a bit and got my fiance Cecilia to help me design these widgets. So shout out to her for doing that. We have this really nice illustration of Amy the cat, which draws people and grabs their attention when they're on their home screen. And it shows you how many calories you consume for the day or how many you have left, depending on your widget. And there's also a little section that shows the protein, carbs, and fats that you've had for today. For the lock screen widget, it's a little bit more limited real estate. So we only show the calories consumed or the calories you have left for the day. The most important part of the lock screen widget is it's a place where when they tap it, it'll quickly open the app so they can log their food. This dramatically decreases friction, which will then increase their chance of actually building that habit of logging their food every single day. This is just a starting point. I have a bunch of other plans for more widgets. We got a couple more designs in the works, but for now, for the sake of speed, we're just gonna ship it with these core widgets to start. The next thing I added was streaks. And this was a feature purely to try to help people to build this habit of logging. Because if they use it for 2 days and 3 days, there's a very high chance that they'll continue to use it after a week. So we added the streak counter that has a calendar that shows you how many days you hit your goal, how many days you missed it, and then there's a counter at the top that shows you how many days you hit the goal in a row. And as a little bit of a motivation boost, I also added this badges feature. The higher your streak goes, you actually unlock these badges. And again, roped in Cecilia to help me with this. So she hand drew and animated these in Procreate. So these are animated badges, and they're actually based on a bunch of cat memes. So you can unlock these, and when you tap them, you can actually see what the original meme was. I know that gamification like this might sound gimmicky, but there's a reason that Duolingo and Snapchat do employ this. I am still trying to tweak it to figure out what the best approach to it is, but I think there is a good way to combine it with building this healthy habit that can really be helpful for users. I also want to mention that a lot of these features like the gamification and the widgets used to take me weeks to ship, but I'm actually just shipping these things in a single day. And it's because I'm using tools like Claude Code and Cursor to move 10 times faster than I used to. If you look at my prompts, they are pretty detailed, and it's because I dictate everything. And that's my recommendation. If you plan on using AI tools, it's to just dictate everything. You get way more detailed prompts. I get a lot of questions on what I use for dictation, and the tool that I use is Wispr Flow. Huge shout out to them for actually being a channel sponsor. Wispr Flow is smart voice to text that works in any app. And the reason I use Wispr Wispr Flow is that it's perfect for developers. It just understands developer-focused terminology. So when I say something like use state, convex schema, webhook handler, it gets it right every time. And if you're using Cursor or Windsurf, Wispr Flow has integrations with these IDEs, and it can actually understand what's going on in the code you're looking at and tag files. So check this out. If I'm inside Cursor and I say, please enhance the styles of subscription-overview.tsx, it will actually tag the file without me having to type anything on the keyboard. It's available on desktop, so if you're using Cursor, Claude Code, or ChatGPT like I do, it's there, but you can also use it on iOS as well. I use it all the time, especially when I'm responding to things on iMessage or Slack. It's just so much easier to just dictate everything rather than typing the message. I'll leave a link in the description. There's a code for 1 month free, and that's on top of the already 14-day trial that you get with Flow Pro. They did not have to do that. I'm the one that asked them for the code, so thank you to them for doing that. So after building the cool retention features like the widgets and the streaks, I had to deal with some stuff that was way more boring, but equally important, which was bugs. After onboarding 100 users, there were a lot of them reported. And the reason I bring it up is when people think about improving retention, they usually only think about features, but fixing bugs is actually incredibly important. Because in my case, for example, if someone's logging food and there's a bug where it just doesn't save, when they open the app and see that it didn't save, they're gonna be very upset about that and then lose a lot of trust and then probably just stop using the app. Here were some big ones that I believe had a significant impact on retention. We have this feature where you can actually edit the nutrition info in line just by asking it to make changes. When you click this button, the keyboard will open and you can tell it, hey, I feel like the calories are a bit off here. Can you just increase them? And it'll go ahead and do that for you. The problem was after you approve the changes, if you close out too fast, the changes did not persist. Imagine you're trying to use this app and half the time it saves and half the time it doesn't. I would get so frustrated, I would definitely stop using that app. And there were other cases like this too. Sometimes the calorie calculation just didn't fire. There were cases when you're using the new quick add feature to add a meal, it wasn't updating the total calories at the bottom. Just a lot of these little things that did add up and compounded to make a really frustrating experience. Totally worth it. I think this is gonna have a huge impact on retention. So just sharing with you guys, because if you're holding off on fixing that bug because you wanna work on a shiny feature, just know it probably does have some impact on retention. And then there were some more slightly embarrassing discoveries. Like someone on the feedback board actually asked, is there any place where I can actually input my current weight? When I read that, I was like, there's no way I forgot to put this in the settings page, but I actually did. Turns out I had a whole settings page where you can input your calorie goals, your macronutrient goals, but I forgot to add a whole section where users can type in their height, their weight, the essential pieces of data you need to calculate these health goals. So I completely revamped the settings page. This is what it looked like before, and then this is what it looked like after when we finally added this new section, which meant I had to update the onboarding to also collect this new information as well. I also added the ability to switch between metric and imperial units because over half the users are actually using this outside of the US right now. So just a lot of little stuff that I really overlooked, but I am so glad that we caught before releasing because it would have just been embarrassing to not have this stuff on day one. All of this stuff that I worked on was in service to try to improve that 3% week 1 retention metric that we have. But now we're ready for the next 500 users, so I'm gonna onboard them and we'll see if that number goes up. There's already so many things I'm thinking about doing to improve this number, like I can improve the notifications, which has a very similar effect as adding widgets to your app, improving the accuracy of the app, because if it's not accurate, people are gonna stop trusting and using it. All these little things I'm very excited to work on, but we'll probably talk about that in the next video. Next week, we'll probably talk about what happened after I onboarded these 500 users, and then hopefully after that, I think we should be launching on the App Store, which is super exciting, and I'm very excited to take you guys along with me. If you enjoyed this type of content, check out my Instagram and TikTok. I post almost every other day about building this productivity app. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that is not on this channel on my Instagram and TikTok, so check that out. And obviously, if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.